What's going on, everybody? How you doing? It's your host, Terrence Pitts. Y'all can see I'm smiling. I got that Robert Morris W smile right now. I'm your host, Terrence Pitts, Pitts and Push Sports Talk Radio, Pitt Sports Zone, Bowie TV, coming to you live through the Eye of the Tiger. Coach Bernard Clark Jr. How you doing today, Coach?
Doing well, Pitts. Doing well. How are you doing?
I'm ready to dive into this Mercyhurst game.
I hear you. I hear you.
So,
Well,
so,
let's go ahead and
so
dive then.
let's go ahead and jump right into it, man. Talk about that home game, right? That home open. You play Mercyhurst. Y'all put up 55 points. Ticket over 300, five
Yeah,
touchdowns.
yeah,
Zach Tanner came in, had him a touchdown.
yeah.
Edmonds had over 100 yards. Noah had over 100 yards. Just take us through everything that transpired within that game.
Well, obviously, everything starts with preparation. And I think those guys had a great week of practice. Going into it, I told you I thought our Thursday's practice was a lot better than it was the week before. So their mindset and instructions that they needed to do was there. And they respond. That's what they responded well to what was going on. And those guys were prepared for that game, put themselves in position. I did something a little different. Like I told you, I let the offense go first. I'm a defensive guy, so I like for the defense to go, but I let the offense go first, and it turned out to be extremely well for us. They went out there and got the ball first, drove it down and punched it in the end zone. Defense went out there and got a pick, punched it in the end zone again. So we put ourselves in a position where Mercyhurst was chasing us all game, which put us in a much better position than we had been in the past two games.
You talk about, our word of the week was respond. And it is seemingly, your team definitely responded in the way that you expected. One of the things that we talked about was your team getting off to a fast start. Talk about the importance of how that energized your team or, really helped pick up the angst.
Well, what it did for our guys, especially, Chickett, because we had those two quick touchdowns in the beginning, when Chickett threw that pick, he was able to overcome that. It wasn't a big deal to him because he knew where he was as far as the completions he had. I think he was 19 or 25. So it was something
Yeah,
crazy. It was like 307 yards and five touchdowns. So the confidence
yeah.
level was there. And I think it gave him a lot more confidence being able to go down and punch those two in the end zone early on and getting those early points early on. So that helped our guys up with the confidence, probably anything else. And the great thing about our offensive line, man, towards the end of the game, they were on fire. They were loving every minute of driving the pile another 10 yards. They make the hit. Mercyhurst would make the hit at about 3 yard gain, and next thing you know, the whole offensive line just pushing the ball another 7, 8 yards down the field. They getting up, screaming and hollering and chanting and having a great time, and they really enjoyed themselves. I think that's the most important thing. They had fun playing in that game. They had a lot of fun playing that game, man. I don't think it was because we won. It was because of how we won.
Right.
We put ourselves in a position to execute the way we were capable of executing, and they did a great job of doing those things.
You talk about Chickett. Yes, he was 19 of 25, 307 yards, five touchdowns, one interception. And then you talk about your running game with Tyon. He had 19 carries for 133 yards and a touchdown. Talk about the contributions of your running back room, which overall had 177 yards rushing.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about, Tyvon and the rest of the gang that's just having a real good time, they're feeding off of each other. They're competing against each other, even in practice. If one of them fumbles the ball in practice, they'll look at it and say, I guess you didn't get in the game, stuff like that, because they know that the expectation that Coach Smith has for those guys is a very high expectation of them, not only performing well in the game, but also performing well in practice. So those guys do a great job of competing against each other in practice and pushing each other in practice. And so I really enjoy that. And the freshmen are starting to catch on. That's the other good thing about it. We got a couple of freshman running backs who are starting to really buy into what's going on with those running backs. So those guys are excited to compete with each other. And they're doing a good job of pushing our offensive line and making our offensive line understand that if they make the block, they're going to make the run. So that's the other
Yeah.
positive thing about it.
When you talk about your freshmen buying in, you talk about the trust factor. Talk about the importance of players buying in and understanding not only an expectation but having an idea and buying into the things that are being asked of them.
Well, that's extremely important. I mean, and and I know, if you don't have players buying into what's going on, it could be a problem. And like
Yeah,
I told you before, there's not a whole lot of selfish players on our team. They're playing for one another. and they're doing a great job of playing for one another. And like I said, they're pushing each other. But no one's bitter about this guy getting a touchdown, about this guy getting more catches or anything like that. We've had some guys that have started in the past who still have a great attitude because they know we have a good football team. When you have a good football team and you're getting the guys out there and you're doing the things you need to do with the guys that are getting it done, the guys that are backups, they don't mind. It's just when you have a good football team and guys are struggling and are going through things, that's when things come to surface and you start having a lot of issues. So our guys respect one another. And I think that's what's more important. I've told them since the beginning of training camp, you don't have to like each other. You don't have to care about each other. Just respect one another. Just respect what a man is doing. If the man's getting the job done, give him his due diligence. And that's the thing that's important.
Talk about when we talk about how offense, one caveats to the other. The running game opens up for the passing opens up for the running. And my guy Noah was able to get over that 100-yard mark as well with a touch and 2 touchdowns. In addition to, you still had players who was either over 50 yards receiving or slightly under. Talk about the importance of the passing game and how things. And one of the things I said was when you have other good receivers, it opens it up for the others. And with Noah not having to worry about that double coverage or safety help because of the contribution of the other receivers. Talk about the importance of that for your receiver room.
Well, the importance of that was exactly what you just said. The running game we had, because initially they loaded the box, and our running game wasn't as good as it was in the second half. It was in the first half. Even though we're running well, we weren't running as well in the first half.
Yeah.
But because of them loading the box, now that put our receivers to work. So we started getting receivers open. We started bringing backs out of the backfield, bringing tight ends out of the back, fullbacks out of the backfield, tight ends off the line of scrimmage. So we started throwing the ball around. Now they had to loosen up the box a little bit, which opened up the running game. So that passing game really opened up the running game for us because they, like I said, they loaded the box. But those guys have confidence in each other. And as soon as they open it up, wide receivers start blocking for the running backs. Running backs start making sure that they got the right pattern distribution, so the receivers were open to get the ball and things like that. So like I said, we're playing together as a team, and that's what you love more than anything else.
Defensively, you guys held them to no points in the first, 14 points in the second, and then only 7 points in the remaining 2 quarters. Talk about the time and the way that your defense was able to show out and make sure that Mercyhurst didn't keep up in regards to scores.
Well, the positive thing about it, you and I always talk about, Terrence. I think it was like maybe 10 missed tackles. So it wasn't a whole lot of missed tackles. Now, if you watched the first half, I thought there were a ton of missed tackles. But what we were doing poorly in the first half, we were fitting wrong. Our run fits were bad. Safeties weren't where they were supposed to be in a gap, or the linebackers weren't where they were supposed to be, or the D lineman got pushed out of the gap. So our fits were bad. So we were breaking some runs on us.
Right.
The crazy thing is we still kept them under 100 yards rushing the ball, but we were able to do that. But it's a situation where the run fits were just bad. And so once we got that fixed and guys started tackling better, then things started looking a whole lot better. The thing about it is you don't want to give up those points at the end of the game. We gave up a touchdown at the end of the game. It don't matter who's in there. It doesn't matter if you got backups in there or whoever. You want to make sure those guys understand we got to learn to finish. And that's the thing that's the one thing that bothered me. Even though we won the game, and I know how many points we had, we didn't finish. And what I mean by that is the defense allowed them to get into the end zone, at the end of the game, and it's a situation that shouldn't happen. That situation should never happen. It should never put ourselves in a position of, them being able to punch the ball in the end zone, because those guys that are going in have to realize they're a play away from being a starter. So you have to put the same work in. You can't count your reps. You got to make your reps count. And I didn't think we made our reps count at the end of the game, so we got to make sure we're finishing football games.
And as you said, yes, your defense held them under 100 yards rushing. They only had 93 and only had 204 yards passing.
Right.
And so now we focus our attention on Wagner this week, 4 o'clock game. What is our wow?
Our wow this week is resist. And what are we resisting? We're resisting the attitude that we've arrived. We're resisting the attitude that, we're a great football team. We're resisting the fact that, I think I'm great, or we think we're great, or we just can roll the football out there and win football games. Resist being overconfident. That's what it's more about this week, making sure we understand those things. I want our guys to put in the same work ethic, which I thought we had a good week of practice. I want our guys to understand this is a business trip. We're going to Wagner to play a football game, to be victorious in the football game and do what we need to do to be victorious in the football game. But they have to understand that. You can't go there thinking that, we played well this last week. It's another conference game. We're going to play just as well this week. No, that's not how it works. You have to still put in that work I was telling them today at the team meeting, and I saw this on a commercial, and it's so true. And it says winning is uncomfortable. And
Hmm.
why is it uncomfortable? Because of the process that goes into it, because of
Yes.
the discipline, because of the diligence, because of the determination, because of those things that go into it. It makes it uncomfortable because you have to do those things to be victorious. In order to be a winner, you got to be uncomfortable. You got to be able to do those things that fit the scheme of what you're doing as a football team, and necessarily doesn't fit you sometimes. It doesn't fit your agenda. It always fits the team's agenda, and so it can be uncomfortable. So our guys got to understand that and resist
Hmm.
being comfortable.
And like you said, right, resist being our word of the week, and resist the mindset. Another word of the week of
Mm-hmm.
being complacent, or
Mm-hmm.
getting comfortable. But resist also not not adhering to the instruction of the football, or whatever the plan is, or whatever offensive scheme or defensive
Mm-hmm.
scheme. But
Right.
also resisting not overlooking your opponent,
100%.
as you said, as you alluded to, feeling that you have arrived. How has practice been early onset of this week?
I thought practice was going well. Practice is going real well. I mean, the thing about Wagner, and last time we played was back in 2019. This team is a tough football team. If nothing else, they're going to try to hit you. They're going to try to knock your head off. They play extremely hard. They're a well-coached football team.
Hmm.
It's one of those situations. They got two defensive ends that I got nothing but respect for. And number 44 and number 5, and those guys are two great players that play hard off the edge. The last time we faced them back in 19, they had a defensive end, number 11, who got drafted by the Bucks. So they
Oh,
keep replacing defensive ends, and this is a good football team. Offensively, running backs real good. O line's huge, and the thing about it, they got 9 starters back on defense, and they got another 6 starters back on offense. So they played together for a while. This team has been together for a while. They played hard together for a while. And so the thing is, only thing is that they've changed a little bit. They've changed quarterbacks, and I'm not sure why. They had one quarterback earlier against Lehigh and against Virginia,
Virginia Lynchburg. Right.
and now this past week against Dell State, they had another quarterback. And I'm not 100% why, because I thought both of them had pretty good arms. One probably ran a little better than the other. I guess the other
Hmm.
one's a better game manager. The guy
Okay.
against Dell State. But we'll find out which one we're going to face when we get there. But we're talking about a good football team. We got to go in there and make some things happen. And as always, you got to be solid on special teams, and you can't let special teams hurt you in any way.
And when you talk, and I was going to get to that, when you look at when you look at Wagner and the teams they played Virginia Lynchburg week one. They beat Virginia Lynchburg 46-7.
Yeah.
And then, they come the next week, they go to Lehigh. They lose that game 49-13, but then they come back, they go to Dell State, they win that game 30-7. And as you stated too, they've used different quarterbacks in each game. How do you prepare for a team that has already shown that they have 3 different option of quarterbacks that they may go with? How do you prepare for whichever quarterback to see?
Well, I think the thing is, the plays are mainly the same. The plays haven't changed. I think they're trying to find the best quarterback to run their offense, and I think that's what they're looking for right now more than anything else. Because pretty much the plays are the same. They're gonna run zone stretch. They're gonna run a couple counter plays here and there, and they're more mesh routes when it comes to passing and things like that. They haven't thrown a whole lot of deep balls. Now they're capable of it because they got a receiver number 3 who can run by you at any point in time right now, but they're not. They don't live and die by the deep ball. So it's a situation where they pretty much run the same offense. They're just trying to. I think they're trying to find the right guy to manage it and keep things going. So, and like I said, defensively, they've been doing the same thing defensively. They're getting after people. They play some 3-man front, some 4-man front, some quarters, some cover 2. So they do some different things. But like I said, the thing they do well is play hard, and they play
Yeah.
with a lot of discipline.
So, last week, the win over Mercyhurst, of course, there were some things that went right. What are some things that even out of with that win that you walk away saying, okay, we still need to do this a little bit better? Besides
Defensively,
finish, you did say finish, but
right.
in addition to finishing the game off by because they scored late in the fourth quarter, but what are some other things that you would like to see them do better despite the win?
The defensively, we talked about them making sure our fits and where they need to be at. Defensively, it was more about finishing with those guys on that side of the ball. Offensively, we got to eliminate some of the mistakes that we made as far as the missed assignments. We early on we're getting our quarterback hit on a number of occasions. I mean, I know he's throwing for 307 yards, but he can't get hit six,
Right.
7 times. We've got to make sure we're not getting him hit as much. Make sure the protection's there. We got to make sure our protection's there, and we still got to. Our O line still kind of patchwork. We're still throwing some guys here, some guys a little nicked up here, so we got to go with another guy here. So we're doing some different things. So we got to make sure we're taking care of that. And now DBs, I'm sorry, our wide receivers, they got to beat one-on-one coverage, and that's the other thing that's important. We got a couple of guys beating it here and there, but we're not beating it enough yet. We got to make sure we're getting covered one-on-one. We got to get open. We got to make sure we're getting open. Like I said up front, we got to protect the quarterback. He's getting hit. He's getting hit a little bit too much for my takes. I don't like it many times he's getting hit. And it's not so much getting sacked. And
Yeah.
I know it ain't about the sacks, it's about the
Right.
hits. You get enough of those hits after a while, it just gets a little crazy. So those are some of the things we need to do better. And on special teams wise, I tell you what, man, my man Jason Jenkins, every time I turn around, he's kicking the ball through the back of the end zone. So Jason's, kickoff team has been great. It's not an issue at all. So we've been solid on special teams, except for those 2 bumps in the road that we had against Edinburgh. We've been pretty solid on special teams. Our guys are getting down there doing a great job. He's doing a great job kicking the ball. He ain't been a whole lot of returns on kickoff. And our punter, Stephen Ernest, Stephen's doing a great job also just punting the ball. And our special teams are doing a great job just doing what they're supposed to do. They got to stay steady. You got to make sure they stay steady. Like I said, you don't want to win or lose a game with special teams. You want to make sure that you maintain what you have going on with special teams and make sure it's solid.
So it looked like, over the 3 games that Wagner's played, when they played Lynchburg, they had no turnovers. Looked like they had a balanced run and pass game. But then when they played against Lehigh, they had 4 turnovers in that
Yeah,
game, which
yeah,
looked like played a part into why they weren't able to get their running game started like they wanted to. Then when
right.
they played Dale State this week, they had more of a Dale State was able to run the ball,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I've seen in the last over the 3 games. Each team they played were able to run, but they weren't able to balance out the pass. And the only team that was able to balance out that pass was Lehigh, which was their only loss.
Right.
How do you when you go as far as game planning, do you lean more or are you leaning more so we need the we need to get the run game going to open up the pass, or do you come out because you already know that the run game is something that actually has the ability to still do well, but the passing game may not.
The thing with us, pitch more than anything else, we're going to do what we do. I think it's more about how we're going to handle the situation and when can we run this play and when can we pass this play. So we got to put ourselves in position to make those plays happen as opposed to letting them put us in position. We can't let them dictate the game of what's going on. Again, I hate to keep referring back to Edinburgh, but Edinburgh did a great job of dictating what we were going to do. So
Yeah.
we learn from that. There's winning and learning. We learn from that to make sure that we understand that this is how we want to run the ball. This is what we need to do to run the ball. This is what we need to do to pass the ball. So it's more about what us and when they're going to give us certain things. So when you start looking at the game plan, you're looking at, like I've always said, you look at the situation. What's the down and distance? What's the personnel? And what's the formation? The 4 things you always look at when you're watching film and when you go out on the field, because you're going to have those things come in front of you. So each player's thinking about what's the situation, what's the down and
Yeah.
distance, what's the personnel, what's the formation. So each player's thinking that and each coordinator's thinking that. So that's what we're trying to do, put ourselves in the best situation. Put ourselves in the best position in those situations and whatever the personnel and down and distance and all that stuff that goes along with it. We want to make sure we're taking care of our business. To me, is more important than actually thinking about what they're going to do. We want to make sure we can dictate what they do as opposed to them dictating what we do.
And so when we talk about dictating, I guess, I didn't word it correctly because obviously, within a game, you have to remain who you are. You can't play
Mm-hmm.
to what somebody else is. But I think more so for me with your running game,
Mm-hmm.
because you've been, besides the game, I'm the one game running game has been exceptionally well.
Yes.
Running back by committee. And Noah's starting to get going. I'm anxiously looking forward to see. I think it comes down to turnovers. And I think that's one of the things that plagued you guys in one game, but then it plagued them in their loss, right?
Right.
And I think the minimizing of protecting and taking care of the ball, I think that definitely will serve the outcome well in Robert Morris's favor, being as though that when they turn the ball over, it doesn't necessarily, end well for them as far as wins and losses.
Yeah, I'm with you. I understand exactly what you're saying. Fortunately, though, pitch, we haven't turned it. Excuse me, we haven't turned it over a lot, and that's the thing that's extremely important to me. We haven't I think we turned over once against Utah State, either once or twice. I think we turned over once against Edinburgh.
Yeah,
Just
just
the it's
once.
the spot where we turned it at, or turned it over at. That was the issue, and I think we turned it over once this past week. So we've only got 3 turnovers at that. We're in plus. I think we're in +2 right now in the turnover percentage as far as turnovers go, because I think we got 3 the first game, and so we put ourselves in position for that. So we're doing a good job of hanging on to the ball. Now we got to do a better job of taking it away.
Yeah.
That's the thing about it. I always tell people don't know the year that the Saints. I think the year the Saints won the Super Bowl, they were, I think, out of 32 teams, they were 29th in total defense, but they were like +15 in turnovers. So turnovers are huge when it comes to stuff like that. And on top of them having a great defense that played hard and got after people, they got the ball turned over a lot. So sometimes it doesn't really matter what happens. You put your offense in position to score 15 plus times, you're going to have a great football team. So we got to make sure we're putting our offense in position to score, and that's when special teams come into play. Also, you got to know when to punt it, when not to punt it. When to go for a fake, when not, because you always want to give great field position. You want to win the battle of field position when it comes to special teams.
Situational football.
Absolutely.
Each branch, offense helping out the defense helping out the offense, special teams coming for the cleanup.
Absolutely, no doubt.
How are we looking injury wise? Did we incur any injuries in this game?
Nothing major. Still nothing major. We got a couple of twisted ankles with a couple of offensive linemen, but they're fighting through it. So you don't worry about twisted ankles too much when it comes to offensive linemen. You have to worry about major things when it comes to offensive linemen. And like I said, God has blessed us in that sense, Pitts. Nobody major's gotten hurt or anything like that. We've gotten some freshmen hurt, but they're not playing at this moment, at this time. And like I told you, Rob Carter broke his finger, but Rob's fighting through that. I think he's fighting through it because it's his last year playing. So Rob's like, I don't care about the finger. We'll get it fixed after the season. It's one of those situations. So guys are focused. They're focused on, being the best that they can be and working hard as they can work and put themselves in a good position. Like I said, God's laying his hand on us and blessing us with no injuries, no major injuries at this time.
Yeah. And listen, Rob already shown that, despite you want both hands to go for the ball, he's already shown that he only need one to come down with the catch.
100%. 100%. So that's the other thing. I'm hoping, I don't know about this game or anything. I'm hoping we can start getting Rob a couple of catches on offense too, see if he can be a secret weapon for us. Because on top of him making that, Rob does have outstanding hands. Like I told you before, I was shocked that when he went to the school he was at and we got him from, I was shocked they moved him from wide receiver to DB because he has such unbelievable hands and the guy plays hard and gets after. But the thing that's important, like I said, in this game, we got to establish what we do. We have to play together as a team, and we got to have no turnovers. We got to try to get as many turnovers as we can because, like I said, this is a disciplined team that plays determined and that plays hard, and they come together and they do a great job. Coach Tom has done a great job with those guys, and I'm sure they're going to fight extremely hard. And we know from this point on, like I said, Pitt, every game is going to be a dogfight. Every last one of these games we're in going to be a dogfight. And we're going to make it a dogfight because we're not going to have another situation where we come in unprepared. That's not going to happen.
So the rest of the week, what are you looking for? What are you looking for from your team the rest of the practice week before you guys head to Wagner?
Tomorrow, we'll do a walkthrough and we'll hop on the bus after that and we'll head on up to Wagner. I want to see in the walkthrough crispness. I want to make sure guys know what they're doing. You don't want to have a whole lot of missed assignments. Coaches shouldn't be out there screaming, "What are you doing?" and things like that. So I want to see crispness. The other thing we work on is our special teams. We work on special teams, making sure guys know where they are. If a guy goes down, make sure his backup knows that he's in there. So we want to make sure it's crisp on Fridays more than anything else. And once you get on that bus, man, it's all about business. This is a business trip. We're going there to play a football game. I know you want to see your parents, but we're not going to hang out with our parents. We got some guys from New York. We're not going to hang out with our buddies. Let's be smart about what we're doing because I will suspend you for the game if you do something stupid. So it's not a situation where, discipline will be met if you're not doing what you're supposed to do. So this is a business trip. That's one thing that Coach Johnson, when I played at the University of Miami, used to always tell us when we went on, hey, this is a business trip, man. This ain't about going to have a good time. We're going to play a football game. We're going to win a football game. In order to do that, you got to have the right frame of mind.
What's your music preference of this week?
You know what? I don't know.
I know you honored Frankie last week.
I honored Frankie last week, but I tell you what, though, even though I honored Frankie, the song I listen to every time pitch before I go out on the field, I don't care where I am, I gotta listen to "Dreams and Nightmares" by Meek Mill every time because I'm telling you, I, 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 I tell guys all the time, I'm an old school head when it comes to music. Like I love old R&B, I love old hip hop. But if there's two songs in this era that I love more than anything else. One of them is "My Neighbors" by J. Cole, because I just like the fact that he's telling his neighbors, yeah, I am selling it and I'm making a lot of money. So
Yeah.
I like the fact that he's saying that. But "Dreams and Nightmares" it tells a story about a young man who's been looking to do this his whole life. And when he says, "Ain't this what y'all been waiting for?"
You
When he says,
ready?
and he says, "Y'all ready?"
You ready?
He starts talking about, he says, "I used
Yeah,
to
I
pray in
see
times
my
like this to rhyme like this, so I could grind
have to
like
grind
that,
like
so I could
that,
rhyme like this."
around like this.
So
Yeah.
what he's talking about is getting prepared, and that's why.
Yeah.
So my mind is always getting prepared for the game, and I tell the guys, "Hey man, we're getting prepared for what we've been trading for all of our life. We've been waiting for
Yeah.
this all of our life, put ourselves in position to play college football. I've been waiting to be a head coach for a long time, so I want to make sure that I put my best foot forward and do my best that I can."
Said I see my dreams unfold. Let me find out, Coach out here quoting Meek Mills
That's it.
for
That's
the.
it. Dreams unfold, nightmares come true.
Let me find out, Coach out here quoting Meek Mills. Golly, man,
Yeah. Get
that's
married to the
funny.
game and say I do. That's it. Let's do it,
Listen,
baby.
go ahead, and throw on some Tupac this week and let it ride out.
but I'll be honest with you though, Chris. My favorite rapper of all time, man, is Ice Cube.
Okay,
I love Ice Cube, bro. And,
today was a good day.
oh, I'm telling you something. Death Certificate is one of the best albums ever, and No Vaseline
Find
is one of
out.
the best songs ever made.
Let me find out. Let me find out. All right, so we come back on Saturday, man, before the game.
Absolutely.
And before you guys prep to take on Wagner, Robert Morris, good luck this week on your business trip. Go ahead, take us out, Coach.
You know how I am. There's no such thing as good luck, only a good God. So we're gonna go for our destiny.
Yeah.
We're gonna make this thing happen. Let's go, Bobby Moe.
Y'all heard it here, man. I'm your host, Terrence Pitts, Bowie TV, Pitts and Push Sports Talk Radio, Pitt Sports Zone, coming to you live every Thursday, every Saturday with Coach Bernard Clark Jr. is going down. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.